Morning, Neil.
Morning. Right, we'll go there. Right, what we're going to do is he doesn't know yet, but George is going to do the scalping. As I said before, we're going to get you more involved in trading. Everyone who comes in the morning, and he's going to come and tell you what he sees at 8 o'clock. I don't know what market he's going to trade, but I'll leave it up to him, and he'll go through what he's seeing. I think we're going to look at probably FTSE, but we'll go from there. So, right, we'll go quickly through what's happened overnight. We'll start obviously at 7 o'clock. We had the UK industrial manufacturing production and GDP all were better than expected, but still very poor. Obviously, GDP was negative from where we were, and over on the year-on-year, looks like negative 10%. However, I think we're aware of that, being in the pandemic and everything else, so it's okay. The German CPI was unchanged, and obviously the CPI inflation, I find that slightly worrying because any of you who listened to the very boring Christine Lagarde yesterday, the one word she mentioned more than any other word in an hour's speech was obviously inflation. I think she mentioned it, someone said 28 times. And of course, she said they're not worried about inflation, but why mention it 28 times when there's nothing there? 8 o'clock, obviously, when I said we don't have any figures, we have the Spanish retail sales out. No one really cares about that. 9:30, UK Bank of England inflation report, where they think inflation will be for the next 12 months, will be interesting. And 10 o'clock, we've got Euro industrial production. 1:30, US PPI, those of you producer price index, that's inflation as well. It'll be interesting to see how we are on the US side there. 3 o'clock, the University of Michigan conference, that's sometimes leaked. Obviously, the stimulus checks are going out there. Biden reckons that most of them will reach their $1,400 by Sunday, and that's when they require them. Obviously, overnight, the big news overnight, asterisk. Why Wall Street suddenly come off the last 2 hours? Does anyone know? Very clear. US 10-year yields have gone above 1.6, and that will move the market. Yeah, that makes it a new high. Even though Wall Street made a new high yesterday, the yields have taken a turn. Obviously, what people have said and what they've seen it being a Friday, will that carry on? Obviously, into Wall Street, and we'll go on with that. Obviously, overnight, there's more tensions between Washington and Beijing, and that is the new conditions overnight that the White House have put on Hawaii trading. Going quick on the ECB, Christine Lagarde says she's not overly bothered about inflation over the next 6 weeks. And hence, I think De Gundos has said that, and Viceroy said that this morning as well. Yellen also said last night that a few of the people will get the $1,400 stimulus check by the weekend. And the other positive thing from Biden, good old Joe, all adults to have their shots by May the 1st. Therefore, that will be allowed them to go and party. And guess what date they'll be allowed to party on? July the 4th. Yeah, USA. Let's keep it there. Right. That's my joke done on USA. Okay. On the markets going on from the opening, it could be a fairly quiet morning. What have we seen on Wall Street over the last hour, from it being 80 up to 50 down? I think that was the news on the yield hitting 1.6. So we might see some explosion, but it looks as though FTSE at 7 o'clock, we were trading 67.10. We've been down to the figure and back up. So we might not see a lot there. DAX, the figures that come out were slightly more bearish. So we look at that. The same of all of us trading today. One rule we have on a Friday, you still remember it. There's nothing worse than having a shit Friday, because it ruins your weekend. A few people last week suffered that fate. They had a fantastic Thursday and thought they was Superman and gave it all back on the rally on Friday. I'm not mentioning names, but I can see a few of them smiling. We're all guilty of that sometimes. Remember, there's not much news out today. PPI at 1:30 and the 3 o'clock University of Michigan isn't a great figure to watch. So in a way, I doubt we should really trade more than 4, 5, or 6 times today. Yet again, it's quite boring. The discipline is, rather than the trade come to you, let's wait for the trade to come. Obviously, a neutral colour. Today, I'd keep my eyes very much on the yield curve. Those of you who would like to trade, have a look at the on the shared screen here. We'll put it up here. The interesting one will be, to me, if you are trading the sim, I want to watch the sim. Look at the UK long gilts. All the other bond markers have been hit this morning. The reason why the gilts have yet to be hit is why they don't open till 8 o'clock. So we expect a big gap down in the gilts because the German 10-year, the US, and all the other markets have been hit. For those of you who are new to it and are on demo, have a look at the gilt market, and then you may see why bonds are fairly popular at the moment. When you think if you go back to the bonds at the moment, we do have German bonds down 35 ticks, US bond markets down almost 1%, all on the base of the Japanese government bonds down a bit. They're all down based on the yield curve. Yeah. So in a way, we can trade as many things as we want. Yeah. Those of you on Christine Lagarde yesterday, when she mentioned about the PPP, the bond market rallied 80 ticks, and then she kept talking about inflation, then dropped 80 ticks. It moved more than the DAX and Eurostox. So the right news to the thing. So George, are you there?
Yes.
I know he's there because he's about 10 yards from the other side of the office. Right. So he's going to go through what he sees, and I'm going to keep quiet in 2 minutes. What market are you going to trade?
I've got DAX and FTSE up, but probably FTSE off the back of the GDP.
Right. I'm going to put FTSE up here on the thing. And you said DAX as well?
Yeah, I've got DAX. Just, I think it's good to keep an eye on both of them on the open.
So this is what we're going to do on the open as such, is that we're going to put every day one of you in the chair and put the pressure on you to tell us what you see. I obviously just see humour.
That's because you're looking at the camera.
And also, it's very clear that if you don't see anything, say you don't see it. And obviously, this week, most of the days, there has been no trade on the open. Okay, I'm gonna mute myself because we're getting background noise, and I'm gonna leave it up to George. Good luck.
To see what happens. So I've put it on a 5-minute chart. That's what I usually do around like the 8 o'clock open, and then I give it like 5, 10, maybe 15 minutes, and bump it back up to the 30-minute. Because otherwise I feel like I get trapped with the 5-minute because I get FOMO a lot of the time, then jump in when maybe I shouldn't. Not now. I usually put it on 5-minute and then give it a while, and then yeah, I've gone 5. I've got 5 on mine. Oh right, yeah. Yeah, just for price action, I usually do 5-minute. Looks like sellers already coming in though for DAX. Should have bought double O. Buyer in the camp, isn't it? Double O FTSE, I suppose. 6,700 was the trade, even though I suppose they're looking at GDP. It's to be better than expected. DAX doing bit choppy. Yeah, FTSE was the one. Much cleaner. Yeah, FTSE up, DAX down. Should have bought the double O. Gone against the rule.
Yeah, I've been very clear in the FTSE.
Very clear. And DAX is coming off. DAX has dropped 60 points in the last half hour.
Yeah.
Hour. Yeah, I suppose that's what I see.
Well, I mean, it's very interesting what George said on the grounds that it was very clear the buying in the FTSE, and also it's very clear the selling in the DAX. And it's weird how they're both opposite. But that's what we look at price action, and it's interesting to see what George saw there, because it was very clear in the FTSE, but was also confusing. You're thinking, why isn't the DAX moving? He's got the two trades up there, and you see where we are, the DAX. So in theory, there was probably a 10, 15 tick still in the FTSE on the opening, on the grounds that even though the GDP was weaker, it was better than expected. So it was great to see someone in there. And the DAX, I don't think there was so much of a trade. but they're definitely probably on the FTSE. There was a buy. I'm going to quickly whisk over here because we said we had the gilts.
Yeah, gilts have opened massive, big gap down.
Oh. Did someone say the gilts will be opening off this morning? That's all you see. And also, when you normally see that from a technical point of view, someone will say there's a gap in the chart. Yeah. Those of you who aren't used to trading gilts and some other contracts, the UK gilt market shuts at 6 p.m. and reopens at 8 p.m. because in Great Britain we have tea and supper and have breakfast, so nothing can interfere with that, and they don't refuse to open. Where the other bond markets open at 2 in the morning or 1 in the morning, the British gilts, yeah, Bank of England through and through, open when they're ready to open. So in theory, if you're a technical trader, you would expect that gap to be filled sooner or later, but that tells you where they think the market is, and that's almost over 50 ticks. And I said in theory before, you knew the gilts were going to open lower, but I mean 50 ticks is a big sell-off. Yeah. So we quickly go back to George and see, did he trade?
I didn't. I saw the entry on 700, but I would have waited for the 8 o'clock open for the FTSE. But it's only, I suppose, 20 points you could have taken as a quick scalp, but it's probably going to be a quiet day. I had a bit of a nightmare yesterday, so I'm not really too bothered about trading today.
Thank you. I mean, and the other thing that was probably
DAX is coming off, though.
Yeah, looking at such to that 5-minute candle is the fact that the DAX is coming off more. So it's quite weird that people watching out there how the polar opposites. The FTSE's still going to bid, and in theory, as George said, maybe your POC in the FTSE is a bit lower.
Yeah.
But I said coming into DAX, the DAX was probably, where are we going from 7 o'clock now? 20, 30 ticks for the sell. I'll be interested to see. Bianca, did you trade on that?
No, I didn't.
No. Charlie.
Yeah, I'm short. I'm short in the DAX.
Oh, here he is.
It'd be quite interesting
Did you
with
do any
Charlie.
dentistry this morning?
Hey?
George, did you do any dentistry this morning? It looks like you're wearing your dentist coat, mate.
Yeah.
No. Shouldn't you be running around the block somewhere? Go and get your cardio in.
I think this is coming more of a radio show. Charlie's been up in our office as well, doing the one-to-one courses and learning how to trade. And he's quite. It'd be interesting to say with Charlie now, where are you going to take your profits in your DAX, and also where are your stops, or are you still doing them manually? It looks a good trade to me. It looks as though you could run that.
I've got me stopping, and I may well move it. I may well move it to break even in a minute. Looks like it's running, doesn't it? So
I totally agree with you. And the reason I asked the question, because when we're scalping at 8 o'clock, we always had that question: how long's a piece of string? You know, how far do we want our profits? But I said, in a way, those of you who have done the one-to-ones before, we tend to ask you to trade multiples. So you don't have just one, you have two. So in a way, if Charlie had a multiple on, which hopefully he does, he can get out of one, yeah, and put his other one stop down to break even and run that one. So if the DAX does tend to move, yeah, and obviously we can have a quick look at Trader Made to see where we have the DAX in. Those of you who have got Trader Made, it's been upgraded somewhat. So hopefully you'll see the improvement. And if you want to go onto it to test it out, send me your details on the Telegram and we'll send it out. And I think what date are we on today? We are the 12th all day today. And obviously we'll have a look where the DAX is down here. And obviously we're almost through where we are, aren't we? So you might have to go back to the previous day or the day before to see where Charlie might want to get out of his DAX position. When we see it, whether it's a scalp, we might have to go back even further than that, go back to the 10th to see where we had the action. Well, we see around about here, Charlie, isn't it? Yeah. 14, 43, round there. That might be your issue in your DAX. So again, so the same thing that he's gone from where we are at 72 up here, where we do see a bit of traffic here, just below the value low from the other day. In theory, that might be a place to take your profit, Charlie. Yeah. And a bit of traffic here, but at the moment, I think it's a good trade. And obviously, it comes with the dilemma as such. We're 7 minutes into trading. When does a scalp become a trade, and when does a trade become a scalp? They should neither interfere with each other, really, because when you put the trade on, you're deciding at 8 o'clock whether it was a scalp or a trade before then. Obviously, with a trade, you've got a slightly bigger stop, and obviously with a scalp, you probably keep your hand on the mouse for a scalp. But we're saying here, looking at back to Wednesday, round about here, 14,444. That, in a way, I think could be the target for the morning. But as Charlie said, from 8 o'clock on a 5 minute chart, that's not bad for what we've had this week, really. 30 plus 10, that's 45 ticks in a way, not to be too greedy on a Friday when there's not much news coming out. So hopefully that was on help. Next week, be prepared. You could be the next George to come in and tell us what you see at 8 o'clock, because we take no prisoners whatsoever. Okay, if I don't speak to you, have a good weekend, and we'll be back on Monday.
Thanks, Neil.
Thanks, Neil. All the best, yeah.
See you later, Nick.
Thanks, Neil.
Thanks, Neil.
Thanks, George.